Hello everyone, I welcome you to yet another video by Sarthi Defense Academy. This is the marathon series in which in the coming 2 to 2.5 hours we will be revising important concepts related to English and mathematics for your CDS NDA exams. So stay tuned to revise your entire syllabus with us in the next 2 to 2.5 hours. Let's get started. In the English language, you know that there are three tenses, right? The present tense, past tense, and future tense. Present tense talks about activities that are currently happening. The past tense will talk about actions that have already happened, and the future tense will talk about activities that are yet to happen, right? So in each of these, you know further there are three categories. There is a simple present tense, a continuous present tense, a perfect continuous tense, and a perfect continuous present tense. These will also be reflected in past tense and future tense, right? So let us quickly discuss each one of them. I will write, let's talk about present tense first. I will write an example of each tense so you will understand the structure, and then we will talk about where those tenses are being used. So in the simple present tense, let us take the first example. I work for the government of India, right? So here the word work tells us that the tense is simple present tense. Where is the simple present tense used? It is used to indicate an action in the present. It is used when we talk about general truths. For example, the sun rises in the east. It is used when talking about habitual actions. Every Sunday I go to play hockey. For example, it's a habitual action. It's happening every Sunday. It is used to talk about rituals and customs. For example, the entire village celebrates the river festival every year. So this is something that is a custom, that is something that is happening over a period of time. It talks about characteristics. The river plays an important role in our life, right? So it is a characteristic of the river that it is having an important role in our life, right? It is used when we talk about proverbs and sayings. What are proverbs? Proverbs are certain things that have a different literal meaning but are contextually used to mean something totally different. For example, a bad workman quarrels with his tools, which means that literally it would mean that a person who doesn't know how to do the job, may say that his tools are not right? So it's not literally used in the same context. For example, if I'm a teacher and I teach online and I'm having trouble with a particular lecture and I say that it's the technology, the internet doesn't want to work, or this tablet is not functioning, or there is some other technical problem. So I'm not saying that I have some less skill to deliver my lectures online. I am rather blaming it on the teaching aid. So anytime proverbs and sayings are used, then we use the simple present tense. Now let us take a look at the next tense, which is going to be simple continuous tense, right? In simple continuous tense, let me just write this. Continuous present tense. This is used to denote a continuing action in the present. Means that an action has started in the past and it is continuing into the present. Let me write an example. I am writing an essay. Which means at some point in the past I've started to write and I'm currently writing it, right? So in the continuous tense there will always be a verb that ends with ing and there will be an auxiliary verb. The auxiliary verb will talk about if it is the present tense, past tense or future tense, and the ing will talk about the action being continuous, which means the action is happening currently. This is used when we talk about actions that are continuing or to refer future actions or events. For example, I am going out of town tomorrow, or to refer to future plan. Now, why will this be present continuous? Let us take a look at an example. Arun is planning to buy a gift for his mother, right? So in this case, he is currently planning about an action that will happen in the future, right? So the action is happening right now, but the event that is going to be happening is going to happen in the future. So referring to future plans, we will use the present continuous tense. Now if we take a look at present perfect tense or present perfect continuous tense, both of these talk about actions not really in the present, they talk more about actions in the past. So we still have them in the present tense, but they will talk about actions in the past. So let's say perfect present tense. A perfect present tense indicates an action that started in the past and is still connected with the present in some way or the other. For example, I have studied in Pune University, which means that it is an action that has happened in the past. So if you talk about the action over here, it is studied, right? It has already happened in the past, but it is related to something in the present. Currently we are talking about where have you studied from, right? So I have studied, I have, we'll talk about it being in the present tense, and studied is the action that has already happened in the past. So this will be the present perfect tense. And if we take a look at the present perfect continuous tense, present perfect continuous tense. It is used to denote an action that has started in the past and is still continuing, or the action has just ended. For example, I have been teaching here since 2015. So this is an action that has already happened, right? Has it completed yet? No, it is not completed yet. It is continuing to happen right now. It is continuing to happen right now, which is why we are using the ing form, and it is using a continuous tense. Whereas it is something that has happened in the past, the reference of which is used in the present, which makes it the perfect tense. So when the perfect tense and the continuous tense come together, then it becomes the present perfect continuous tense. Now before we move on to the past tense, let me just quickly discuss some of the things that are important from the point of view of the exam. For example, he is owning a car, right? One could say that he is continuing to own it, which means currently. If you talk about the present, this is the present continuous tense. So he's owned it in some past time and he is continuing to own it, right? So this statement is correct, some would say, but it's not correct. Why? Because it is a general truth, right? That I am the owner of the car. So in the general truth statements, which tends to be used? Or if we talk about this characteristic of a car, which is that is I am owning the car, right? We will use a simple present tense, so it will be he owns a car. Or if we take another example, the book is containing good subject matter. The book is containing good subject matter. This is again the continuous tense, right? Containing is containing. We'll talk about present continuous tense being used. But here again it is a general truth, which means the sentence should be the book contains good subject matter. Correct? So it's going to be just statements like this. One of the type of questions would be the sentence is broken into 4 parts, for example, and then tell us which part is incorrect, and then you have to choose is containing is incorrect. Why? Because it should be contains. Right? So these are the type of questions that will come from your exam point of view. Now let's move into the past tense. If we talk about the simple past tense, I worked for the government of India. Let me write this example also. I worked for the government of India, right? So the simple past tense talks about an action that is completed in the past. I worked, which means that action is complete. I worked for the government of India. So where do we use the simple past tense? To talk about an event that has already taken place in the past. To talk about past habits, which means I used to get up late when I was a child. Do I still wake up late? Maybe not. So when it's a habit from the past, we will use the simple past tense. Another thing is when we do story writing, which means when we narrate a story, we use the simple past tense. And last is when we talk about history, we use the simple past tense. Now moving forward, we will talk about the past continuous tense. The past continuous tense denotes an action that was continuing in the past. So let's write past continuous tense. An example would be my father arrived my father was working, continuous was working when Geeta arrived. So in this case, was working is the past continuous tense. Why? Because गीता जब आई थी तब मेरे पापा काम कर रहे थे. दिस इज व्हाट द सेंटेंस मीन्स, राइट? सो पापा काम कर रहे थे कब? पास्ट में. सो द वॉज इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द पास्ट टेंस, द आईएनजी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द एक्शन कंटिन्यूइंग. Now let's talk about the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense is used to talk about sequential actions in the past. For example, I remembered that we had spoken before. I remembered that we had spoken before. So had spoken, ये चीज़ ऑलरेडी हो चुकी है, that tells us that it is the past tense and it is the perfect tense. Why? Because there are two sequential activities that are being spoken about in the sentence, that is remembering and speaking. So I remembered that we had spoken before, right? So I remembered when in the past, that we had spoken in the past. So when we talk about two events in the past, one happening before the another, then we use the perfect past tense. If we talk about past perfect continuous tense, when we talk about the past perfect continuous tense, it denotes the length of an action that continued till the time of reference in the past. What does that mean? Let us look at an example and discuss quickly. By the time I reached the hall, the film had been running for an hour. So here there are two past tense we are talking about. First is reaching the hall and second is running the film, right? So in this case, the reaching is the second event. The movie was already running when I reached, right? So in this case, we will use the past perfect continuous tense. It is talking about two actions in the past and it's talking about when one action started and when the other actions ended, right? So it's talking about the length of any past action. So it will use the past perfect continuous tense. Now let us take a quick look at the future tense and then we will move to discussing one or two questions from the past papers. In the future tense also we will be talking about the simple future, continuous future, perfect future and perfect continuous future. If we talk about simple future tense, let us take a look at an example. My brother will not come tomorrow. My brother will not come tomorrow, which means this action is in the future, that is tomorrow, and my brother will not come. So if you are talking about time, which means from the present the action is going to take place in the future. Now one of the key things that will tell you that the action is happening in the future tense is the word used, will or shall. Will talk about the future tense. Now there is a quick note that you should take into consideration when talking about CDS and the NDA exams is ordinarily shall will be used in the first person pronoun. So I and we will use shall and will be used with the second and third persons, that is he, she, it, they, you. All of this will use will. So you shall not move, instead of that you could write you will not move. Either of them is correct when you are talking about conversational English, but from your perspective of the exam, these are things you should be careful about, right? So the note is that shall will be used in the first person pronoun. So I and we will use shall. So I shall, we shall. On the contrary, the second and third person pronouns he, she, it, they, you should be using will, right? Where is the simple future tense used? When we talk about future in general, when we talk about actions or events or conditions that will take place in the future, when it's used to predict about future, when it is talking about future plans, when it is talking about definite actions in the future. All of this will use the simple future tense. Now if we talk about continuous future tense, let us write an example. I will be sleeping in the afternoon. I will be sleeping in the afternoon, which means that this action will happen in the afternoon, that is in the future. So here again you can take the hint by the word will and the ing. Will talk about it being in the future tense and ing will talk about it being in the future continuous tense. Where is this tense used? When we talk about a definite action at a specific time in the future. The students will be practicing for program tomorrow till 2 p.m. So this is talking about specific time in the future, right? It is also used when making some polite inquiries. For example, will you be coming home someday? Or for example, pre-scheduled plans to be carried out in the future. Those will also use the perfect continuous tense. Let us look at an example. Neeta will be visiting her aunt this weekend. Neeta will be visiting her aunt this weekend. So will be visiting talks about it being in the continuous future tense, and it is talking about an action in the future that is going to be happening in the future. An action expected to happen in due course in the future will also use the future continuous tense. And last condition is a future action of longer duration interrupted by a shorter action of the future, which means two actions will be spoken about in a sentence. The first one will be longer, the second one will be shorter. For example, she will be studying when you visit her, right? So she will be studying, this is a action that is of a longer duration, and when you visit her, that is a shorter duration action, right? So that will also use the future continuous tense. Now if we talk about perfect future tense, we were talking about the perfect future tense. The perfect future tense is talking about an action within a definite period of time within the future. For example, I shall have finished my assignment by next Tuesday, which means that by next Tuesday I know that the action that I am currently from the present moment to the future I am going to be doing is going to happen and be completed by next Tuesday. So I shall have finished my assignment by next Tuesday, right? If we talk about the fourth tense, which is the perfect continuous future tense. This talks about actions that continue for some time before they are completed in the future. So this is very similar to perfect, but in perfect the action is already completed. In the perfect continuous, the action is going to be completed in some time, but it's going on right now. For example, I have been practicing for my exam. I shall have been, or I will have been I shall have been preparing, let's say, instead of practicing, preparing. I shall have been preparing for my exam for the next 1 week. So in this case, this action is going to be happening continually before it's going to be completed at a future time, right? So from the point of view of preparations, be very careful about what tense you are using in your sentences. Let us quickly just take a look at one or two examples before we move to the next topic. Let us now take a look at two examples. These are both from previous year's CDS exams. A closed economy is identified as a human community which produces all it consumes and consumed all its products. In this case, you have to tell us where the mistake is in the sentence in A, B, C or D section, right? So in this statement, a fact is being expressed, right, about the human community, right? So when facts are stated, we should be using simple present tense. Hence, we will change and consumed all its products to consumes all its products. So here it should be consumes. Why? Because this is going in the past tense. Another thing is there is inconsistency in the tense being used. So is the present tense, consume is the present tense and consumed is the past tense, right? Whereas it's all talking about a fact. So there has to be consistency in the tense being used. So the mistake is in part D of the sentence. Let us look at another example. No struggle can ever succeed without women participating side by side with men. Is it the error in part number A, part B, part C, or there is no error? So if we take a look at this, the sentence is in the present tense, but again this succeeded is in the past tense. So it has to be no struggle can ever succeed without women participating side by side with men. So if you are somebody from an English background, this is going to be easy for you in both CDS and NDA exams. Why? Because something will sound off about it. So if I read no struggle can ever succeeded, I know that the succeeded is not matching with the first part of the sentence. So there is something missing in this part. Don't go in a hurry to mark that wrong. Give me the exact reason. Think about the exact reason why you're marking it, right? This is very essential because, mind you, for ND exam you have negative marking. So it's not just important for you to know the answer, but always justify yourself why your answer is a particular option. So in this case, it is talking about a generalized statement of truth. So again, it will use a simple present tense, right? So why is there a past tense verb form being used in this sentence, right? So this becomes your clarification for which option should be the answer. Another thing that you can do to get more accurate answers is change the sentence into the correct format. So no struggle can ever succeed without women participating side by side with men. Does this sound right? Yes, it sounds right. Which means the mistake is in part number A. Very important for you, especially when there is no error option, right? A lot of the recent papers have this option as no error, which means there is no mistake in the statement. In that case, you have to go through each and every word individually and assess if there is a mistake or not, right? With this, we have come to the end of one of the biggest chapters, which is tenses. Now we will move to voice. Voice. Voice is a form of verb that indicates whether the subject of the sentence performs or receives the action. This is very important because this topic will tell you on which part of the sentence are you stating the emphasis on. Okay, we know the subject is normally the doer of the action, right? But the subject is the main person that we are talking about in the sentence. So let me just give you an example, and we will first identify what the subjects in those two sentences are, and then we will move to a discussion on the two types of voices, that is active voice and passive voice. Let us say Nidhi paints a picture, right? And the similar sentence I am writing in the format of a picture is painted by Nidhi. Minded, I am keeping the tenses consistent with the format of the sentence. In this case, Nidhi is the doer of the action. She is also the subject of the sentence. Nidhi paints a picture. Who are we talking about? We are talking about Nidhi. So Nidhi is the subject and paints a picture is the action that she's been doing. So the picture would be the direct object. And this will of course be the verb, right? Verb is very important because in voice we are talking about form of the verb that indicates whether the subject or of the sentence is performing or receiving the action. So the verb is also crucial over here. If we take a look at the second sentence, a picture is painted by Nidhi. So we are talking about the picture, so the picture becomes a subject, but it is the receiver of the action. Receiver of the action, that is to paint. This action is being done. He is or it is receiving the action. So here the verb is painted and Nidhi is the doer of the action, doer of the verb. So in both the cases the voice being used is different. If the subject performs the action, the verb is said to be an active voice. So in this first case is an example of use of active voice because the subject is the doer of the action, whereas if the subject receives the action, the verb is said to be in passive voice, right? Now there are certain notes that I would like you to make. Verbs in active voice can either be transitive verbs, that is verbs with an object, or intransitive verb, means verbs without object. What does that mean? Let us quickly take an example. Jack has read the new novel. Jack is reading, right? So in the first case we have a direct object, which means this has read is a transitive verb, right? Whereas Jack is reading is an intransitive verb. Why? Because we do not need a direct object in this case, right? So in case of active voice, the verb can be transitive verb, it can also be intransitive verb. But in passive voice, only intransitive verbs can be used. So in passive voice, only transitive verbs can be used. In the passive voice, there is an obligation that there is a direct object. Why? Because the object, which is the receiver of the action, becomes the subject, right? So having the subject in the sentence is obligatory, which is why transitive verbs only can be used in the passive voice. So practice a few sentences how the active voice moves into the passive voice. Let us take a few examples. Lata teaches English. I am not going to write the examples on the screen. If you want, you can make a note in your notebook. Lata teaches English. English is being taught by Lata. Right? Another example would be Nick wrote a book. A book was written by Nick. All her friends like her. She is liked by all her friends. So in the above sentences, if you see, the emphasis on the subject is changing, right? The emphasis on the receiver or the doer is changing. However, the meaning of the sentence is remaining the same. This is very essential. For example, we use the passive voice when we want to focus more on the action, right? And use active voice when we want to focus more on the person who is doing it, right? So in case if we are talking about mistakes of somebody or a group member, then we will use passive voice. Why? Because we want to shift the emphasis from the person who is doing it into the action, so that we move into a more corrective mode. How can I repair the mistake, rather than who is to be blamed for a particular action, right? So in the above sentences, remember, when the voice is being changed from active to passive, the direct object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. What do I mean by this? Which means कि ये जो डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट का पोजिशनिंग आपने देखा है फर्स्ट सेंटेंस में, वो क्या हो गया? ये डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट क्या हो गया? ये हो गया सब्जेक्ट इन द passive voice. Second thing is, the subject of the voice in the active voice may become the object or the positional phrase beginning with by. For example, in this case, जो subject था active voice का, वो क्या हो गया? Object हो गया of the passive voice, and you will use by. In most cases, you will use by. It may also be omitted. For example, a picture is painted is also a complete sentence, right? A picture is painted is a complete sentence, but we are adding by nidhi because we have that extra detail. Why should we miss that detail, right? Third rule says, it's not rule, a third note you could say, the active verb changes into passive verb, and it is being done using a verb format which includes am, is, are, was, were, being, been, and then the past participle or the third form of the verb, right? Both of these can be used. We all know this rule. That's why here there is paints and here there is, and then the past participle, which means the ed form of the verb is being used. Now remember, there is certain changes in the forms of personal pronouns as well. We will quickly make a note of this. So the I in the passive voice will be changed. So let's say active voice and passive voice. These are not standard abbreviations. These are just being written because we know we are talking about voice. So AV will mean active voice, PV will mean passive voice. I will change to me, we will change to us, he will change to him, she will change to her, they will change to them, right? So these are the changes in the personal pronouns that is being used, right? Another thing that will change is sometimes there will be a change in the tense format that is being used. Why? Because we are using the auxiliary verb and then we are using the past participle. So these are the things that you have to consider, especially when you are talking about the active and the passive voice. Another thing that I would like to focus while we are on this chapter is that from the exam point of view, there will be questions such as change the voice of the sentence, which will be very easy, or there will be use the verbs in the active or the passive voice. In that case, if it is the passive voice, you know that you will use the auxiliary verb and then the past participle. If it's in the active voice, then you will use the verb conjugation according to the context of the sentence. So first type of questions are where you will be given a verb and you have to change the verb according to the active or the passive voice. Then some other form of questions that will be there will be a sentence given to you and then you have to change the voice of the sentence, right? In that case, first thing you can do is read all the 4 sentences, see which sentence has a similar meaning. Second, check which one is using the auxiliary and the past participle if it is a sentence in the passive voice, right? So these are some tricks and techniques that you can use to change the active to passive voice. There are a ton of rules related to active passive voice. Just go through them once, you don't need to mug up everything. With this, we will move to the next chapter where we will discuss about modals. In this chapter, we will study the 2 types of verbs. First is the ordinary or the regular verbs, and second are auxiliary or what we call as modal auxiliary or auxiliary verbs. A modal auxiliary verb is used to express the mood or the attitude of a speaker. For example, you should regularly go for a morning walk. So here the should is talking about a duty or an obligation. They must attend tomorrow's meeting is talking about a suggestion or an advice. May I use your pen, please? This is talking about a permission. May I, can I, right? So modals are verbs that are usually used when we talk about 11 of these possibilities. Let us quickly note this down and then we talk about the common modals and in which context they are used. First, modals are used to ask permission. Second, ability. Possibility. Advice or a suggestion. Intention. Promise. Necessity, or we could also call this compulsion. Wish. We also use it when we are talking about request. We use it when we are talking about prohibition. You must not do that, so we are prohibiting the activity. And then duty or obligation, right? And some of the common modals that are used are can, could, may, might, should, would, must, ought to, am or was to, or have or had to, or used to, need or dare or shall or will. Right? These are the most common used modals which are also important from your exam point of view. Right? In CDS, your questions are a little different than how they would come for NDA exams. In NDA, a lot of focus is on expressing contrast or expressing the permission, possibility, necessity, compulsion, prohibition. Whereas in CDS, you see a wide variety of modals being used. In NDA, the level of difficulty in case of modals questions is a little higher as compared to CDS. But no matter what, if your basics are clear, if you know exactly which modal is being used where, then it is going to be a piece of cake for you. So let us talk about each of these modals quickly. So may or might are used to express a possibility. For example, it may rain or it might rain. Okay. It can be used to talk about permission. I would highly recommend you to make notes of this. If you do not already have some of your own prepared notes, and it is a good idea to now pause and replay the video and make notes. Okay, it could also be used when asking for permission. May I come in? Yes. Or when granting permission. Yes, you may come in. Right. When we are talking about a wish or a prayer, may you enjoy marital happiness. So when somebody is married, marital happiness is the happiness after somebody's marriage, right? So may you live long, right? The blessings and wishes that we give on birthdays or important days of, may you get all the success in the world, right? So these are what? These are wishes. Or when you want to propose something, she works hard so that she may pass. She works hard so that she may pass, or she studies hard so that she may pass, right? So in this case, the purpose is to pass. The purpose of working hard or the purpose of studying hard is to pass. It is also used to denote remote possibility. Might is used in case of in reference to a place. Let me re-say this. Might is used in place of may to express remote possibility. So, for example, it might rain. So, it may rain is talking about the possibility being a little higher than it might rain. He might be sleeping now. There is a very slight or a remote possibility of that being happening, right? They are used in case of both, expressing possibilities in the present and in the future. Might can also be used when referring to past. Okay, so be careful about that. May and might along with have expresses a possibility or desirability related to past actions. For example, he may have left yesterday, he might have left yesterday, right? So in this case, it is possible that he left. He may have failed. So it is possible that he has failed the exam or he failed the exam. So this is what the purpose of modal verbs is. It is not the verb, the main verb. Okay, it is a supporting verb that talks about either of these 11 possibilities. It is used always along with another verb. Can and could talks about ability, talks about a polite request. Could you lend me some money? Could you pass me some salt? Our polite request. Can is she can write in English. I can speak 7 languages. It is also used to give a permission or to issue an order. For example, yes, you can go now, or you can take my book. So these are what? Giving permissions. Prohibition, you cannot enter the room. Can you help me? Is an offer. So in case of offer also we use can and could. In case of a possibility, for example, if I ask you how old is she, you could say she could be 16. So you are not sure, but there is a possibility that she's 16. Maybe she studies in the same class as you. So maybe you both are of the same age. Could plus have is used for past ability while indicating that the action could not take place. For example, I could have revealed a secret, but I did not, right? So I could have done this. There was a possibility of doing this action, but that action did not happen. Should is used to express duty or obligation. You should leave now. You should be present here. It could also be used to talk about future in the past. What do I mean by that? I told him that I should go there. I told him in the past that I should go there, which means in the past this action was being spoken in the context of future. Whereas should can also be used when talking about a purpose. Work carefully, or you should fall. It talks about condition. Should you work hard, you will get success. So if you work hard, you will get success. So it can also be used in case of a if. Should have is again talking about an obligation in the past. You should have stood by my brother. You should have left a message. but you didn't, right? So it also expresses non-performance of the action. Must is used in case of obligation or necessity. You must follow the instruction, or when giving an order they must not play there, or a strong possibility. It is 10, the teacher must be in class. Or determination, I must helping. Determination means I am now having the intention to help him. I am now determined to perform that particular action. It is also used in case of deduction. He has a big house, he must be rich. So what is showing that he is rich? The big house that he owns shows that he must be rich. Must have is used about, again, in the past action or situation indicating non-performance of the action. You must have followed the instructions, but you didn't, right? O2 talks about moral obligations or duties, or to have talks about an action in the past or duty that was not fulfilled, right? So these are all modals that are used in sentences, and you could go through a few more of these. So I've written the important ones on the screen. Make sure that you go through a few examples of each of these modals. The most important of the modals I've already discussed in this video. So for example, one of the questions that came in the exam is, she expects that her son can return, may return, or should return. So in this case it should be should return, right? There are some other types of questions. So there might be blanks, there might be questions such as identify where the error is in the sentence, right? In which part, similar to the ones that we discuss in tenses, right? So there might be a sentence, for example, don't worry, they should eventually succeed, I assure you, right? So in this case, if you take a look, then the should is not correct, it should be will. So don't worry, they will eventually succeed, I assure you. They should succeed is showing an obligation. It is not necessarily that they will succeed, right? So be very careful. If it's a question related to modals, pick the modal in the sentence, break it down into what are the circumstances among these 11 that this particular modal expresses. So should expresses a duty or an obligation, right? But it is not confirmed, right, that you will succeed. So in that case it is not an obligation, right? So that should is not the correct modal to be used over there. So this is the way, this is the right strategy to go about solving these questions. Now remember, we are just going to go through the rules, and we're not going to go through a lot of example sentences or the questions that may come in the exam, because it's a very easy topic to say, and everything is very rule driven. So if you know the rules, you're going to get this part right. Now remember, it is not how we have studied this topic in school. In parts of speech, we had to identify what part of speech a particular word was and what was the subcategory. In CDS NDA exam, there are questions such as identify the error, right, or put the correct verb or noun format into the sentence, correct the spelling. All of these come under parts of speech questions. In CDS as well as NDA, it is a very essential topic. So mind you, this is not something that you want to put for option. It has the highest weightage, and if you've got the part of speech right, then you are going to understand all the other grammar. For example, when we were talking about modals, when we were talking about voice, when we were talking about tenses, one thing that I repeated continuously is the verb. If you do not understand what is a verb in this sentence, you are not going to understand all those topics. Remember, no sentence can be complete without a verb in it, right? So most of your grammar topics are associated with the verb format of the verb format used in the sentence. So let us now take a look at the rules related to the 8 parts of speech. In parts of speech, there are 8 parts of speech. noun, verb, pronoun, adjective. These are the basic parts of speech, and more advanced would be adverb, conjunction, interjection, and then we have preposition. Right? Apart from this, we will also be discussing articles towards the end. Okay? So let us now talk about nouns. In nouns there are five types of nouns that are important from the perspective of exam. You will not have classification, but you will need to know this classification. Proper nouns, common nouns, collective nouns, abstract nouns, and material noun. Apart from this, there are two others. If we talk about the NDA format, so in that there is a concrete noun, and then there is a compound noun. Let us quickly go through these. So when we talk about proper nouns, these are, before proper nouns, let us talk what are nouns. Nouns are names of people, places, animal, things, organizations, ideas, right? If we talk about proper nouns, these are name given to particular persons, people, place, thing, animals or organization. Not people, people would be in collective. So in proper noun we would say persons, animal, things, organizations. One of the good way to identify proper nouns are proper nouns always start with a capital letter. But mind you, in English, the first word of every sentence is also capitalized. So it is not necessary that if a word is capitalized, it is a proper noun. But for sure that it cannot be a proper noun if it is not starting with a capital letter, right? Let me give you some example. Gayatri or Sarthi Defense Academy, Delhi, or let's say HCL Limited. All these are what? These are proper nouns. Let's move to common noun. Common nouns are general names of person, place, things, animals or organization. For example, city. I live in a city. If I say that, do you understand which specific city? No, but do you understand that I live in a city and not a town or a village, right? So it is a general name given to a place or a person. For example, she's a girl. Okay, instead of saying she is Riya or she is Ayushi, I'm just saying she's a girl. So this is general. This is just talking about if it's a girl or a boy. When I talk about company rather than a particular name of a company, right? So these are what general names given to person, place, animals, things, organizations. Collective nouns are nouns which refer to groups of persons, places, animals, things. So fleet, class, crowd, these are all collection of people, place, animals or things. Abstract nouns are nouns which refer to a quality or a feeling. For example, hatred, love, innocence, knowledge. These are things that cannot be seen or touched, but it can be felt, right? We talk about material nouns. These are names of materials. For example, wood, iron, silver, metal. All of these are materials. So these are talking about substances. So these are material nouns. Concrete nouns are nouns which can be touched. So book, table, phone, right? So these are mostly names of objects, you can say. And compound nouns are when two nouns come together, two or more nouns. For example, suitcase. So in this case, suit and case both individually are things that can be touched. Suitcase together is also an object, right? Suitcase is the bag, that a trolley bag, a bag that you take when you're traveling to keep your things into, right? So this is an example of a compound noun. In case of nouns, there are two things that you should consider. First is the number of the noun. So in that case, the classification is into countable and uncountable nouns. Countable nouns are ones which we can count, and uncountable nouns are ones which we cannot count. For example, rice, sugar, water, these are not countable. Yes, you can say 2 kgs of rice, but you cannot count the grains of rice. You cannot say 50 rice, you cannot say 20 water, right? But you could say 20 photographs, 10 books, right? So these are countable nouns. In countable nouns, there are two classifications: singular nouns and plural nouns. Singular is referring to one, plural is referring to two or more than two. Then another thing that you need to consider is the gender of the nouns. Is it masculine, referring to a male person or animal? Feminine, referring to a female person or animal? Is it a common gender noun which refers to both male and female? For example, when I talk about child or a sibling, this does not refer to a particular gender. It can be used for both male and female. Or is it neutral in case of non-living things which do not have either gender, neither male nor female? For example, a watch, bottle, a book, these don't have a gender. So these are neutral gender nouns. So what are the rules related to nouns? There are 5 rules that we are going to be discussing. There are more, and depending on the kind of reference book you are going to be using for your exam, there can be multiple rules in nouns, but let us discuss the most essential rules related to nouns. Nouns that show information or evidence only have a singular format. For example, we only protest for justice, liberty and equality. Right, so in this case, justice, liberty, equality, all of these are singular nouns. The police received false information about the thief's background. Right, so in this case, we don't say received false informations, we always say information. Why? Because it is talking about information or evidence. Another thing to watch here is thief's background. This is the possessive case of a noun. What is the possessive case of a noun? Where we put an apostrophe and then we add a s, which refers to the possession of the object belonging to a particular noun. Right? So in this case, the information is regarding the thief. So false information about the thief's background of the thief. Instead of that, we say thief's background. Second rule is some nouns are both in singular and plural. They are the same. For example, sheep, deer, these are same in singular and plural format. Third is that some nouns just have a plural format. For example, scissors or trousers. Right? If you want to use them as singular nouns, we use them with the phrase a pair of. So we never say that can you give me scissors, we say can you give me a pair of scissors. Okay, the man bought new trousers for his child. So even though he bought one trouser, we say trousers because there are 2 legs to a trouser, right? So that's the logic. The shears aren't sharp enough to cut the grass. So shears is the tool that we use for cutting the grass, right? It's not sharp enough. So the shear would have no use if it was just one blade, right? It has to have 2 blades, which is why it is used in plural format. So you can just remember it like things that cannot just individually exist, will exist in pairs, will be used in the plural format. Some nouns such as mathematics, news appear plural but are treated as singular. Why is it important for you to understand if it's a singular noun or a plural? Because the verb conjugations will depend on that. For singular verbs, there is a different verb conjugation. For plural verbs, there is plural nouns, there is a different verb conjugation. In the last rule, there is a reference to when the phrase one of the is used before a noun, the plural form of the noun is used. For example, it is not right to say one of the boy bought my files. It's always right to say one of the boys bought my file, because one of the many, so many will be the plural format. So it's very easy. If you see, we already know these rules and the context in which they are used, right? So you don't need to complicate this, just understand if the number format of the noun is correct. Depending on the book you're referring to, there might be multiple rules for nouns, so please go through those. These are the 5 most important ones which will help you to revise for your exams. Now let's talk about the next part of speech, which is verb. But before verb, let's go through pronoun, adjective, and then we'll go into verb, because verb is a little more detailed. So pronouns. Pronouns are words that are used to replace a noun or a noun phrase to avoid repetition. For example, if I say, Ria is my friend, Ria is tall, Ria is an engineer, Ria is working in a multinational company, right? Here the word Ria is being repeated, so in the English language what we do is we replace Ria with she. So Ria is my best friend, she is an engineer and she is working in a multinational company. She is tall, right? So in this case, instead of using Ria again, we use she, right? So this shortens the sentence, avoids the repetition, and when there is avoidance of repetition, it's less irritating for the ears to listen to, right? So in pronouns, there are multiple types. Let me just quickly write them one by one and explain you what they are. It's very important for you to know the type of pronoun that it is, because there are sometimes questions related to the classification of pronouns. Even if there is or isn't a question like this, it is important for you to know, because it will help you understand the purpose that it is being used for in the sentence. First are personal pronouns. These are used in place of nouns referring to person, place, animal or thing. Let me write some examples. For example, I, me, they. These are all personal pronouns. Second are possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns show ownership or possession. His book, mine, yours. These show possession or ownership. Next is demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns are used to point to a particular person or a thing. There are 4 demonstrative pronouns which are important from your perspective, which is this, that, these and those. This, that, these and those. Next, if we move on, we will see interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns are used to question, used to ask a question. For example, who, which, whose or what. Remember, interrogative words and interrogative pronouns are different. Interrogative pronouns are words that are used in place of nouns to ask questions. Okay, so be very careful, and these are very contextual. So what will not always be an interrogative pronoun. It could also be just a question word that is being used. So to be very careful if it is replacing a noun or is it not replacing the noun. If we talk about a relative pronoun, relative pronouns are used to refer to a noun that has already been mentioned before. So for example, who, that, which, who that which. For example, she is the girl who we were talking about, right? So interrogative pronouns and relative pronouns में difference क्या है? Interrogative pronouns questions ask करेंगे, relative pronouns क्या करेंगे? दो clauses को join करेंगे. She is the girl who I was talking about, right? So who I was talking about is joining the clause to the other clause. Next is distributive pronoun. Distributive pronoun. Distributive pronoun is used to refer to a member of a group individually. Means again one of those boys, right? This is a noun. So if this is being used in the pronoun format, for example, each or either, or we could also say neither. This is referring to one out of the group, right? So it is a distributive pronoun. Next, if we talk about indefinite pronoun. Indefinite pronoun, when a pronoun does not refer to a particular person or a group, it is called an indefinite pronoun. For example, if we say all, if we say every, if we say anybody, इससे हमको कोई स्पेसिफिक चीज़ का पता लग रहा है कि नहीं पता लग रहा है, सो वो क्या हो जाएंगे? इंडेफिनिट प्रोनाउन हो जाएंगे. रिफ्लेक्सिव प्रोनाउन, reflexive pronoun is used to refer back to the subject. So when the action is being taken place on the subject itself, subject is the doer, subject is the receiver of the action. In that case we call it reflexive pronoun. I got myself ready, right? So I was doing the action and the action was also being done on me. Then there are two more types. Let's write it in this corner. Empathic pronoun. Empathic pronoun क्या होता है ना? Empathic pronoun is used to emphasize on the subject. I myself did my homework. So pronouns such as myself, yourself. This will stress that who did the action. So these are empathic pronouns. So reflexive pronouns में क्या होगा? Reflexive pronouns में जो subject है वही object होगा sentence का. Whereas क्या होगा? Empathic pronouns में किसने action किया उस पर हम stress करेंगे. जैसे I myself prepared for this important meeting with the investors, in which I want to emphasize on my efforts. So instead of saying I prepared for the meeting with the investors, we will say I myself prepared for the meeting. Next is reciprocal pronouns. Reciprocal pronouns. When a pronoun is used to refer to two or more people involved in a mutual action, it is called a reciprocal pronoun. For example, each other. So they are helping each other or one another, right? These are what? Reciprocal pronouns, because two or more people are involved in a mutual action together, right? So these are reciprocal pronouns. When you refer to pronouns, there are just two rules. So first rule is in case of two or more singular pronouns, pronoun का order क्या होगा? Second person, third person and then first person. For example, there are three people, you, there is another girl and I who are going to the party. We will say you, which is the second person, she, which is the third person, and I, which is the first person. So order will be 2, 3, 1. So the sentence will be you, she and I are going to the party. Second thing is, if there are two or more plural personal pronouns, then order will change to first person, second person, third person. So singular में क्या होगा order? Second person, third person, first person. प्लूरल में फॉर्मेट होगा फर्स्ट पर्सन, सेकंड पर्सन, थर्ड पर्सन. सो we and they are working on a project together. So in this case we is the plural format, so we will use the first person plural one, which is we, and then use the second person and then the third person. So with this we have completed the first section where we have spoken about nouns and pronouns. Now next section of this topic is going to be about adjectives and adverbs, and then we will go to discussing verbs. Moving forward, after pronouns we will be discussing about adjectives. Adjectives are words that tell us more about nouns, right? So they are used to modify a noun or a pronoun as well, right? So if we take a look at the types of adjectives, first is adjective of quality, which will talk about what kind of a noun or a pronoun is it. Is it pretty, ugly, fresh, tall? These are qualities of nouns and pronouns, so this will be adjective of quality. Next, if we talk, is adjective of quantity. This will answer the question how much. How much of a noun do you want? How much of a pronoun do you want? Some, more, enough. If we talk about adjective of a number, this will give us the exact, so how many. So this is used in case of countable nouns. For example, give me 9, give me a dozen, give me fourth. The noun is fourth in order or fifth in order, right? So numbers as well as cardinal numbers will be adjectives of number. Then is demonstrative adjectives. Demonstrative adjectives express the relative position of the noun. For example, these, that, this, those. Then we talk about possessive adjectives. Possessive adjectives are used to indicate ownership of possession. This is my book. So my, her, your, it, his, their, are, these all will be possessive adjectives. Then there are interrogative adjectives. Interrogative adjectives are which, whose and what, when they define or tell us more information about a noun or a pronoun. If you see, a lot of these demonstrative, possessive, interrogative, these are in pronouns also, in adjectives also. So in pronouns they will be replacing a noun, in adjectives they will be telling us more about a noun. So this is the distinction between the two. And the last type is proper adjective. Proper adjectives are proper nouns which are used in the form of an adjective. So for example, this is Belgian chocolate. So Belgian here is not a noun, it is an adjective. So a proper noun used in the form of an adjective is a proper adjective. If you take a look at the rules of adjectives, you will never use two comparatives or superlatives. This is the first rule of adjectives. Before we go into in short, talking about superlative and comparative or positive degree, let us look at a topic which is degrees of comparison. Degrees of comparison are of three types: the positive degree, the comparative degree, and the superlative degree. The positive degree is used when we are just talking about one person or an object. For example, he is a good boy. This is a happy painting. Okay, this is a sad moment in my life. So in this case, it is just a simple statement. So adjective here is used in the simple form. There is no comparison. So in this cases, it is a positive degree of comparison. Comparative degree of comparison is when two things are compared. She is taller than him. He is smarter than her. This is a better day than tomorrow is a better day than today, for example, right? So comparative degree will have a comparison between two objects or two things. Superlative degree will be where the comparison is between more than two things. She is the best in his class, in her class. Sorry, she is the best in her class. So in this case, there is a reference of, or there is a comparison between all the students in her class, and she is the best among them. So she is the best among more than two objects, right? So that is superlative degree. So never in a sentence there will be two superlatives to comparative is used. So we will never say he is more taller than her, because taller itself is in the comparative degree, you don't need more. Or she is the most fastest runner. Are most fastest का ज़रूरत नहीं है, because fastest itself is talking about it being in the superlative degree. Second is, some adjectives do not have a comparative or superlative degree. मतलब वो चेंज नहीं होते डिग्रीज के हिसाब से. यूनिक कंपेयर कैसे करोगे यूनिक चीज़ को? यूनिवर्सल, जो चीज़ सब जगह पे एप्लीकेबल है उसको कैसे कंपेयर करोगे? परपेचुअल, चीफ, परफेक्ट, फुल, एक्सट्रीम, यूनानिमस, ideal, these don't have comparative and superlative degrees. So don't force every adjective into three formats. Okay, next is always use then when using comparative degree of adjective. This is very essential because sometimes there are questions related to changing of degrees of comparison. So in that, in the comparative degree you will use then. Some cases you will not use then, you will use to. Let me give you an example. Ravi is taller than Rajan. In that case we will use then. However, when the adjective is such that it is not changing according to the degrees, but it is defining in itself that it is a comparison and it is superior or it is inferior. For example, Abhishek's work is superior to my work, right? So in this case the word superior is being used. So we will, superior is not necessarily superior is not adjective that changes according to degrees of comparison. Superior in itself is showing that it is comparative. So in that case we will not use then, we will use to. We will not say Abhishek's work is superior than my work, we will say superior to my work. Similarly, Mayuri is senior to me, for example, right? So senior here will be used along with to. Next rule is always use the and any or with superlative degree. He is the smartest, she is the fastest, and then we will say of the other boys or of the other girls, then the other girls. This will show the comparison. So of the other boys or then the other boys or then anybody in the class, all of this will be used in the superlative comparative, not comparative, superlative degree only, because the comparison will of course be in the superlative form, because there will be a comparison between more than two things. Next is use of few and a few. Few emphasizes lack of something, मतलब few बोलते तब कुछ तो कम है, and a few means कुछ बचे हैं, right? Few मतलब कुछ नहीं है उधर, and a few means कुछ बचा है, मतलब there are few sweets left in the jar means there is a lack of sweets in the jar. Whereas if you say we still have a few minutes left before the class means हमारे पास कुछ समय है, कुछ मिनट है class के पहले, right? So with this we are covering the part of degrees of comparison and the types of adjectives. Now let's move to verbs. Verbs क्या होते हैं ना? Verbs होते हैं any word that is showing an action or an activity that is happening, or it is also talking about possession or a state of being. These are all थिंग्स दैट विल टॉक अबाउट वर्ब्स। अभी वर्ब्स में काफ़ी डिस्कशन हमारा ऑलरेडी हो चुका है, सो वी विल क्विकली मूव थ्रू दिस। वर्ब्स में फर्स्ट होता है एक्शन वर्ब्स, विच टेल्स अस अबाउट व्हाट द सब्जेक्ट इज डूइंग, जिसमें हमने दो टाइप के वर्ब्स देखे, ट्रांजिटिव जिसमें हमको एक ऑब्जेक्ट की ज़रूरत होती है, एंड इंट्रांजिटिव जिसमें हमको ऑब्जेक्ट की ज़रूरत नहीं होती है। सेकेंड वी स्टडीड अबाउट इज लिंकिंग वर्ब्स। लिंकिंग वर्ब्स क्या होता है? व्हेन अ वर्ब सर्व्स एज अ लिंक बिटवीन द सब्जेक्ट एंड द ऑब्जेक्ट इट इज रिफर्ड टू एज अ लिंकिंग वर्ब, जैसे इज, एम, आर आ गया, राइट। नेक्स्ट इज अ हेल्पिंग वर्ब, दिस इज अ लिटिल डिफरेंट। लिंकिंग वर्ब में क्या होगा ना, स्टेट ऑफ बीइंग के बारे में भी बात किया जाएगा, बट हेल्पिंग वर्ब्स इवन दो द वर्ब कैन बी इन 2 or 3 कैटेगरीज ओवर हियर, बट उसका एक्शन क्या है उस सेंटेंस में, उसके बेसिस पे वो डिसाइड होगा। अभी हेल्पिंग वर्ब में ऑलरेडी हमने देखा है मॉडल ऑक्सिलरी, एंड वी हैव लर्नड प्राइमरी ऑक्सिलरी। प्राइमरी ऑक्सिलरी में क्या होता है? एम, इज, आर, वर, डू, डज, डिड, ये सब आएगा, ठीक है। और मॉडल ऑक्सिलरी में हमने ऑलरेडी पूरा चैप्टर देखा है, उस पर कैन, कुड, मी, मस्ट, माइट, ये सब आएगा मॉडल ऑक्सिलरी में। इसके अलावा वर्ब्स में ना कुछ फॉर्म्स है, जैसे फॉर्म्स ऑफ वर्ब्स। पहला फॉर्म ऑफ वर्ब है फाइनाइट वर्ब। फाइनाइट वर्ब का मतलब क्या है? व्हेन अ वर्ब डज नॉट चेंज इट्स फॉर्म अकॉर्डिंग टू द नंबर और द पर्सन और द टेंस, जैसे शी लव्स टू बेक अ केक, इसमें हम लोग वो पर्सन का कंसिडरेशन नहीं कर रहे, नंबर का कंसिडरेशन नहीं कर रहे, राइट। सो टू मिल्क और टू काउंट, टू राइट, all of these are in the infinitive format because they do not talk about the tense or the person. Non finite मतलब क्या हो गया? The oh, I'm so sorry. I explained it in the opposite. So finite verbs में जो होता है वो change होगा according to the person and the number, and infinite, yes, you're correct. Infinite or non-finite, we will not call it infinite, we will call it non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs में क्या होगा कि वो जैसे she loves to bake, she loves, wait, इधर नहीं लिखना चाहिए, I'm making a little of a mess here. She loves to bake a cake. Actually इसमें ना दो verbs है, right? Loves जो कि change हो रहा है according to the person which is she, and it is talking about the present. So she हमको बता रहा है pronoun के बारे में, means the doer of the action, and we are also getting to know that it's in the present tense. तो वो कौन कर रहा है उसके बारे में भी बता रहा है और टाइमिंग के बारे में भी बता रहा है, सो वो फाइनाइट वर्ब हो गया। लेकिन टू बेक जो है ना वो किसी भी चीज़ के बारे में नहीं बता रहा है, ना वो प्रोनाउन की बात कर रहा है ना वो टेंस की बात कर रहा है, सो वो हो गया नॉन फाइनाइट वर्ब्स। नॉन फाइनाइट वर्ब्स में 3 टाइप्स है वापस। फर्स्ट इज इन्फिनेटिव। इन्फिनेटिव्स क्या होते हैं? इट इज़ द टू फॉर्मेट, सो टू राइट, लेट्स से फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट। सेकेंड इज जेरेंड। जेरेंड का मतलब क्या होता है? जहाँ पे एक वर्ब को नाउन की फॉर्मेट में यूज़ किया जाता है, वर्ब को नाउन की फॉर्मेट में। तो जैसे स्विमिंग इज़ अ ग्रेट एक्सरसाइज, स्विमिंग इज़ अ ग्रेट एक्सरसाइज। तो इसमें जो स्विमिंग है, स्विमिंग इज़ एक्चुअली अ वर्ब, लेकिन इस सेंटेंस में आप देखोगे तो ये नाउन में कन्वर्ट हो गया, तो इसको हम बोलेंगे जेरेंड। एंड लास्ट है पार्टिसिपल। हमने ऑलरेडी पास्ट पार्टिसिपल की बात की थी। तो जब हम लोग कोई एंडिंग ऐड करते हैं, जैसे आईएनजी एंडिंग हो गई या ईडी एंडिंग हो गई, राइट, सो दीज आर पार्टिसिपल एंडिंग्स, राइट। तो ये यूज़ किए जाते हैं जब एक वर्ब को एडजेक्टिव की तरह यूज़ करना है सेंटेंस में, जैसे कि The buzzing sound was incredibly irritating. So buzzing है ना, that is talking more about the sound. So that will also be under participle, right? तो हमने verbs में क्या देखा? Action verbs, transitive, intransitive, linking verbs, helping verbs, modal and primary auxiliary verbs. Forms of verbs में हमने देखा finite, non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs में we've seen 3 categories: infinitive, gerund and participle, right? So with this we have completed the verbs section. We will continue with adverbs. Adverb is a word that is used to modify verbs, adjectives or other adverbs. Let us look at examples of this. So let's put the title. She is walking slowly. Here the word slowly is describing a verb which is walking. So in this case it is an adverb. Slowly is an adverb because it is giving more information about a verb. Similarly, if we talk about she is walking very slowly. Here the word very is also an adjective. Why? Because it is giving more information about the slowness. So it is more slow, right, which will be very slow. So it can give more information about another adverb. Another thing could be she is very intelligent. In this case the very is talking about another adjective. So very is also a adverb. So it can give more information not just about a verb, which is the normal definition that we use for adverbs, but it can also give more information about an adverb or another adjective. So what are adverbs? A word which is used to modify the meaning of a verb, an adverb or another adjective. Yes. If we look at the types of adjective now, the first I said adjectives, I mean adverb. Let us now look at types of adverbs. The first type of adverb is adverb of manner. Adverb of manner is an adverb which is used to indicate the manner in which an action is taking place. It is referred to as adverb of manner because it is explaining more about the action. So let's say as we just took slowly, right? So we could also say quickly, slowly. Another example could be fluently. These are all talking about the manner in which a particular action is taking place. So this will be adverb of manner. Next type of adverb is adverb of time. When an adverb is used to indicate the time when an action takes place, it is referred to as adverb of time. For example, ago, a long time ago, or after. Another adverb of time could be since. All of these, when giving more information about a verb, is going to be adverb of time. Next adverb type is adverb of place. When it is giving more information about a place again. So for example, inside, here, far. Remember, a lot of these adverbs are also prepositions. An adverb will give more information about a verb, adjective or another adverb, whereas a preposition will talk about the position of a particular noun or a pronoun. So know what purpose the word is serving in the sentence. Okay. Next we talk about adverb of degree. It talks about the intensity or the degree of an adverb or another adjective or a verb. For example, extremely, almost, you could say. You could also say fully. Next is adverb of frequency. Adverb of frequency is used to indicate how often an action is performed. For example, often or rarely, we could say. Or we could also say never. Right? So this talk about the frequency at which an action is taking place. Next, interrogative adverbs. Remember, there are interrogative pronouns, there are interrogative adjectives, there are interrogative adverbs. Interrogative adverbs are used to ask question. Whenever the word interrogative is said, it is going to be associated with questioning. Right? Now, these words will again be same. What you will do is identify the purpose. For example, how, where, why are examples of interrogative adverbs. So identify if the word is replacing a noun. Is it giving more information of a noun or a pronoun, or is it giving more information about the verb or an adjective or an adverb? Right? Last is a relative adverb. When an adverb introduces an adjective clause which modifies the preceding verb, it is referred to as a relative adverb. तो फर्स्ट चीज क्या करेगा, वो एक एडजेक्टिव क्लॉज को इंट्रोड्यूस करेगा. और सेकंड काम क्या है उसका? सेकंड काम उसका है टू मॉडिफाई verbs. These will include why, where, when, etc. Okay, so these are the things that you should remember when talking about adverbs. Now let us discuss a few rules related to adverbs. First is so or to should not be used without their relative correlatives, that is to that and to. For example, he is too intelligent is not correct. He is too stupid to pass an exam, or he is too intelligent to fail an exam. That would be correct. So always the word so and to should be used with that and to. Second rule of adverbs is that adverb endings in ly form, that is ly ending, the comparative form of these adverbs will be with li. By adding more it becomes comparative, with adding most it becomes superlative. So ly ending adverbs के आगे आप क्या लगाओगे? मोर लगाओगे इन कंपैरेटिव डिग्री, मोस्ट लगाओगे इन सुपरलेटिव डिग्री. जो हमने कॉन्सेप्ट एडजेक्टिव्स में किया वही सेम यहाँ पे भी है. कंपैरेटिव एंड सुपरलेटिव डिग्रीज की हम बात करें तो इन कंपैरेटिव डिग्री देयर विल बी अ डिस्कशन बिटवीन टू verbs, and in superlative degree there will be discussion with two three or more than three. The next rule related to adverbs is adverb of manner, place and time are generally placed after the verb or the object of the verb. For example, he slept soundly at night. So यहाँ पे verb के बाद आ रहा है. Again, he narrated to him the incident briefly. Right? Both the cases are examples. Verb के बाद या object of the verb के बाद आ रहा है adverb. Right? Adverb of manner, place and time are used in a single sentence. अगर ये तीनों एक सिंगल सेंटेंस में यूज़ हो रहे हैं तो पहले क्या होगा? मैनर होगा, फिर प्लेस होगा, फिर टाइम होगा. ये ऑर्डर वाले जो क्वेश्चंस है ना वो आपके एग्ज़ाम के हिसाब से बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट नहीं है, लेकिन आपको पता होना चाहिए, ठीक है. सो इफ़ आई लेट मी गिव यू अ रॉन्ग सेंटेंस. I read the book yesterday meticulously at home. So instead of that, you should be saying, I read the book meticulously at home yesterday. So the order in which the words are put is very essential. Now, if you are somebody who listens to a lot of English, or who can fluently speak English, or who has studied English for a significant amount of years, then this is going to be easy for you, because the sequence rule is not something you're going to have to mug up. It's going to be something that naturally comes to you. You will just know that it doesn't sound right. Next rule is when an adverb modifies an adjective or another adverb, the adverb comes before, which means her dress was ready nearly, as in yoga, her dress was nearly ready yoga. So in this case, the adverb will come before the adverb that it's modifying, or the verb or an adjective that it is modifying. Next rule is in adverbs of frequency, they are always placed before the noun again. So he sometimes comes late, he always looks ready, right? All of these are examples of adverbs of frequency. This will always be used before the verb. Next is only and even should be placed immediately after the word intended to modify. Only and even क्या होगा, बाद में होगा. He worked only 2 sums नहीं होगा, he only worked 2 sums होगा. He cannot even correct English नहीं होगा, he cannot even he cannot write even correct English नहीं होगा, he cannot even write correct English होगा. So you see, now I've been using English for so many years, so it's very hard for me to put the words in the wrong context, right? So the more you listen to the language, the more you speak it, the more you practice, it's going to get easier for you. You're just going to know that this is wrong because it's not sounding right. I cannot say this in a flow, right? Let's move to rule number 8. The last rule related to adverbs is rather and fairly can mean moderately, okay? For example, she is fairly intelligent, but my sister is rather stupid. Rather will be used when we are talking about unfavorable conditions. Fairly will be used when we are talking about favorable conditions. So she is fairly intelligent, we are talking about favorable conditions. But my sister is rather stupid. In that case, we will use rather. Why? Because it is an unfavorable adjective or adverb that we are talking about here. Okay. So with this, we will move from adverb to the next section, which is going to be conjunctions. In conjunctions, let me just open a blank screen so we have a fresh paper to start. Conjunctions. Conjunctions are words that join or bring together 2 or more words, phrases, clauses or sentences to form one single new sentence. Okay, in that there are 3 types of conjunctions. One are coordinating conjunctions. When a conjunction is used to link 2 or more clauses or sentence of equal importance, it is referred to as coordinating conjunction. So let's write this also. You don't probably need the names of the types, but you need to know their purpose. So coordinating conjunction. These will join 2 sentences of equal or 2 clauses of equal importance. For example, for, and, but, और yet, और भी आ जाता है, so भी आ जाता है. These are what? These are coordinating conjunctions. Second is subordinating conjunctions. When a conjunction is used to introduce or join subordinate clauses to main clauses, it is going to use subordinating conjunction. जैसे कि because हो गया, there's going to be one main clause and one subordinate clause. So subordinate clause को जो main clause से join करेगा वो क्या होगा? सबऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शन, बिकॉज ले लो, इफ ले लो, एज ले लो, ऑल्दो ले लो, all these are subordinating conjunctions. Last type is correlative conjunction. When a pair of words is used to join two or more clauses or sentences of equal importance, it will be correlative conjunction. But इसमें क्या होगा ना, टू पार्ट्स हो गए. जैसे कि हम लोग बोलते हैं not only but also, right? These are pairs of words. यहाँ पे जब हम लोग सबऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शंस की बात कर रहे थे ना, इक्वल इंपॉर्टेंस के सेंटेंसेस को वो ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, लेकिन दे आर सिंगुलर और वन वर्ड कोऑर्डिनेटिंग कंजंक्शंस. बट रिलेटिव कंजंक्शंस ऐसे पेयर्स हैं ना जो हमेशा साथ में आएंगे. जैसे अगर आपका सेंटेंस नॉट ओनली से स्टार्ट हो रहा है तो सेंटेंस में कहीं ना कहीं बट ऑल्सो भी होगा, या फिर बोथ एंड, राइट? जैसे बोथ टी एंड कॉफ़ी हो गया, राइट? नो सूनर एंड देन, नो सूनर देन. सो ये जो दिए हैं ना हमको कोरिलेटिव कंजंक्शंस, ये एक के बिना नहीं एग्जिस्ट कर सकते. जैसे आपने नॉट ओनली सिर्फ डाला बट ऑल्सो नहीं डाला, तो इट्स नॉट करेक्ट. दे आर पेयर्स विच ऑलवेज वर्क टुगेदर. ओके, सो इन दिस देर आर अगेन रूल्स, बट there's no point in discussing those. Why? Because just use your common sense, understand which conjunction means what, look at some examples and you will be good to go. Interjections are another part of speech. Interjections, these are not covered in your syllabus. However, interjections are words such as alas, which is used to denote something sad that has happened. These are words that are usually followed with an exclamation mark, or hooray, yippee. These are all interjections. Now let's move forward to prepositions. Prepositions are a part of speech or a word which is used to show the relationship between nouns and pronouns. It is used to denote the position, location, direction, method, place or source of a particular noun or pronoun. So let us look at few examples and the context in which it is used. In and at, let us discuss some confusing prepositions which are more important from your exam point of view. You already know where to use the normal prepositions. Let's look at those which can confuse you. So for example, in and at, people usually confuse where to use in, where to use at. In is used when we talk about bigger places such as towns, cities or countries, whereas at is used for smaller places. For example, I live at Shivaji Nagar in Pune. Let me write this sentence. I live at Shivaji Nagar in Pune. So here there are two prepositions being used. First is at and in. So at is used after a smaller place. Shivaji Nagar is an area in Pune, whereas Pune is the name of a city. So with bigger places such as towns, cities, we will use in, and at will be used for smaller places. Another common confusion can be in and into. So in is used when we are speaking of things that are at rest, and into is used when speaking of things in motion. For example, he is shopping in the market. He is shopping in the market. So the market here is stationary, right? So we will use in, whereas he jumped into the well. Into will be used when it is talking about things in motion. He is jumping into the well, so there is a motion, so that will be into. Another one could be on and upon. The cat is on the table. The cat pounced upon the mouse. So when it's about a position, it will be on. When it's about movement, it will be upon. Another would be with and by. Right? So with is used to denote an instrument, whereas by is used to denote the agent or the thing that is doing the action. For example, the letter was written by him with his pen. Let's write this example. The letter was written by him with his pen. So the agent uses by, whereas the instrument uses with. Another important preposition would be between and among. Between and among can be confusing sometimes. Between is used when we are referring to two things or persons. Among is used when we are talking about more than two things. Right? For example, between the two of you, who is stronger? The sweets are to be distributed among 10 friends. So if it's distributed between two people, we will say that sweets are to be distributed between the two of you. And if it's between 3 or more than 3, then we will use among. If you are referring to some reference books, you will find a lot of discussion on prepositions. It's a very essential topic. Very essential topic for both CDS as well as NDA exams. This topic is very essential. Even in AFCAT, prepositions have a significant weightage, because if you see, there is a very minute difference between these prepositions, and when your preposition is not right, it will show that you don't have good knowledge about the language, right? So how I would recommend you to study prepositions is pause this video, open your any reference book that you're referring to. If you're not referring to any reference book, go to Google, find out the common prepositions in, on, between, from, since, besides, among, and read through the text referring to that, where each preposition is used. If you're already good at it, then I would recommend you to look at confusing prepositions. For example, the ones that we have discussed here, these are the most important from your exam point of view. In and at का पे use होता है, in and into का पे use हो रहा है, on and upon का use हो रहा है, with and by का use हो रहा है, between and among का use हो रहा है. Once you've gone through that, once you have confidence, make sure that you're practicing some preposition exercises. Go over the MCQs. Online, there are a lot of free reference material regarding prepositions. Again, like I told you, for if you've watched other videos which we have made, I say that go on the Google and type exercises for prepositions. Over there only you will get exercises. They will give you options. You just have to put the right option in the blank. After solving 5 or 10 questions, there is a submit test, and immediately you get the right and incorrect answers marked out there. This is the best way to practice prepositions. This is one of the part of speech. Why did I take it in the end? Because it's the most important. A lot of weightage is on prepositions, and you cannot just keep it for option. Okay, so it's very important that you study some prepositions. So at this stage, we have finished the parts of speech. So we have discussed noun, pronoun, we have discussed verb, adverb, adjective, conjunctions, interjections, as well as prepositions. In this, prepositions is of extreme importance. So go on Google, do some exercises, do some past question papers if you can. Okay, so with this we will move to the next chapter, in which we will discuss the kinds of sentences and types of clauses. uh, Before that, one important thing that is missing is articles. It's a very short topic. We will just quickly get through that and then move to kinds of sentences and clauses. Okay, so आर्टिकल्स के बारे में आपको क्या पता है? आपको पता है कि 3 टाइप के आर्टिकल्स होते हैं इंग्लिश में, एन एंड द, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू बी डिस्कसिंग मोर इन डिटेल इन द नेक्स्ट फ्यू मिनट्स. Before getting into more detail, let's talk about what are articles. Article is a word that is used to point out the noun which is being referred in the sentence. It is telling us if the noun is a general noun or specific. So whenever we are talking about infinite nouns and these are talking about general, and when we talk about finite, or how we say, I don't want to say finite, definite. Yes, when we are not talking about anything definite, so indefinite articles, if we are talking about indefinite articles, we are talking about general nouns. Okay, and an are the indefinite articles. The is the definite article which talks about specific nouns. So this is overall the only thing that is there in articles. Okay, but let us discuss this and break it down into smaller, and let's look at some examples. This is the only thing that I wanted to revise in articles. So when do we use indefinite articles? Before a common noun in singular. For example, 12 inches make a foot, right? 12 inches make a foot. Here I'm not talking about the leg foot, I'm talking about the unit of measurement, foot. To make common nouns into a proper noun, we can use both definite and indefinite articles depending on the case. So for example, a place where we talk about indefinite articles would be Ajay is a Sherlock Holmes of our class, right? So a Sherlock Holmes is a famous detective series of books, and then it's converted into a web series also. So a Sherlock Holmes is, we're not talking about the Sherlock Holmes. The Sherlock Holmes is one fictional character, right? But a Sherlock Holmes is a person who is that good of a detective, right? So in this case, we will use the indefinite article. Ajay is a Sherlock Holmes of a class. Or it is used also to mention each, every, or per. For example, a doctor advises the patient to take medicines twice a day, or an apple a day keeps doctor away, right? So in these cases also, each, per, every के लिए भी हम लोग indefinite article and use करेंगे. A will be used in front of consonants, and will be used in front of vowels, A, E, I, O, U. What should start with these alphabets. Now if we talk about definite articles, when we are talking about a particular person or a thing, the DVD of that movie is available in the market, which means we know exactly which DVD we are talking about and which market we are talking about, right? So the reference of that particular person or thing is already given. It is also used in front of physical features of geography, such as the Himalayas, the Ganges, the Indian Ocean, right? All of these are specific locations. When I talk about the Ganges, you know where the Ganges is flowing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You could also use it with reference to a single island or a single mountain, but in those cases you will not use the. Okay, when we're talking about the Himalayas, it's a range of mountains, right? So individual island and individual mountains will not use the. However, when we're talking about significant elements of physical geography, or we're talking about a group of islands, or we're talking about a group of mountains, we will use the. So it will be not the Kanchenjunga is the highest peak of the Himalayas in India. It will be Kanchenjunga is the highest peak of Himalayas in India. It is also used before common nouns that are unique. For example, the sun, the moon, the earth, the sky. When I talk about sun, okay, the sun in the solar system, there is only one sun, right? If we talk about moon, well, if you are a person who's very interested in space, then maybe when you're talking about moons, we're talking about artificial satellites, and then you're thinking about different planets have different number of moons. But when we talk about moon on the earth, we're talking about the moon that we see in the sky in the night, the one moon, right? We talk about the earth, we know that it is one unique planet in our solar system, right? Another thing is, well, it's just a tip if you're improving English and you hear and you happen to watch this section, is in front of consonants it will be pronounced as the, and in front of vowel words it will be pronounced as the. So we say the sun, the moon, the sky, but we say the earth. Okay, it is also used in names of countries that are in a federation format, or a group of smaller states coming together. For example, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, the Republic of Korea, the Republic of South Africa, because these are smaller units that have come together to form a country. Okay, there are only 3 exceptions: the Netherlands, the Philippines, and the before names of religious journals or mythological books. So we don't say Bible, we say the Bible. We don't say India Today, we say the India Today. It is also used in front of superlatives. We have already studied that. So it is I am the best in the class, right? It is also used to denote nationalities, the Australians, the Indians, the Hindus, right, etc. It is also used in front of historic events, the Russian War, the revolt of 1857, or the Quit India movement, right? The Gulf War. Always the word the is used because it's a historic event and we know exactly what event we're talking about, the World War, right? Before musical instruments, I play the flute, I play the guitar, I play the piano. We don't say I play flute, we say I play the flute, right? It could also be used to represent a class of people. Now, this is a rule that you should be careful about. So, when I say the rich should help the poor to come up, right? The rich, here the rich word is a noun. It is representing a class of people. It is not an adjective defining people, right? So, it is the rich should help the poor. Rich should help the poor, rich should help poor, it is the rich should help the poor, because both rich is representing a community, poor is representing a community. It is also used before units of measurement. For example, the cloth is sold by the meter. Give me a meter, 1 meter. The meter is used in other cases, right? A common noun is used to give force to superlative. This is another thing we've already discussed. Before the adjective same, whole, and after the adjective all and both. For example, he is the same person that I saw yesterday, right? So before same and whole we will use the, or after adjectives all and both we will use the. Another thing is when we're talking about an abstract noun actually. So for example, the moralist in Gandhi revolted against injustice. So the moralist is here an abstract noun. So we will use that. It is well, how do I explain this? Moralist is a common noun. Yes, I agree with it, but it's showing an abstract concept, right? So in that case also we will use the. And well, last thing is before tournaments we say the Asia Cup, or the Champions Trophy, right? So in names of cups and trophies also the is being used. So with this we've completed articles, and now let's move to sentences and clauses. Let us first talk about what is a sentence and a clause, right? And then we'll get into the types of each of them. A sentence is a grammatical unit made up of a group of words that makes complete sense by itself. Okay, so there are three things that are important in a sentence. First, it should begin with a capital letter. Second, it should either end with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamatory mark, and it needs to have a subject and a predicate. What do you mean by a subject and a predicate? The subject is the doer of the action, and the predicate is the part of the sentence which tells us something about the subject. So in sentence, what are the three conditions? For a complete sentence, first begins with capital letter. Two is ends with a full stop, a question mark or an exclamation mark, and has a subject and predicate. If you have watched this video from the very beginning, we've also spoken about verb must be there in a sentence. It should make complete sense, right? In sentences, there are four types of sentences. So let's discuss those also as we move forward. First is declarative sentence. Declarative sentence states something. For example, my name is Rama, for example, right? Or he hasn't come back ever since. This is just stating something. If it's positive, then we'll call it affirmative sentence, or a positive sentence. If it's negative, then we'll call it a negative sentence, right? Second is interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentences. Now at this point of time in this video, you should not have a question what are interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences ask a particular question. In this, there are two types of questions: yes no questions or then WH questions. So yes no questions are those questions the answer of which is either yes or no. Do you like to study English? Yes, I like to study English. It's a yes no question. Why? Because the answer is in yes or no. WH questions, on the other hand, start with words such as which, where, how, when, what, right? For example, which school do you go to, right? Is an interrogative WH question. Third type is imperative sentence. Imperative sentences. These are orders, instructions, advices. For example, take down what I say, right? Which means write down what I say. Right? Take down what I say means write down what I'm saying. Request could be please open the door for me. Advice could be careful while crossing the road. Right? So these will include commands, requests, advices mostly. And last is exclamatory sentences. Exclamatory sentences. Exclamatory sentences are, of course, those sentences which express a strong feeling and have an exclamatory mark at the end, right? So in sentences, these are one type of group of sentences. Other type of sentences is a simple sentence, which is a sentence with only one verb and one dependent clause. So in this, we'll say one verb, comma, one, well, not a comma, it will be either it will have one verb or one dependent clause. When we study clause, I will tell you what's a dependent clause, what's an independent clause. Second is a complex sentence. In complex sentence, there is a principal, or let's call it main clause, and then it has one or more subordinate clauses. Okay, and Third is a compound sentence. A compound sentence is where two or more principal clauses or independent clauses, two or more independent clauses are being brought together. Okay, let's look at one example of each of the sentence. Let me put the example in green. Mary likes coffee. Right here there is only one verb, so it's a simple sentence. A complex sentence could be we missed our plane. We missed our plane because we were late. We were late. Right? In this we are talking about two clauses. We missed our plane and we were late. So one is a main clause and one is a subordinate clause, right? So when a main clause and a subordinate clause come together, it will be a complex sentence. Compound sentence would be I was feeling tired. All the same still I went to office. All the same still I went to office. So here there are two clauses. I was feeling tired. I went to office. These are both independent clauses and they are being joined by a group of words, all the same still. Right? So all the same still we've already studied. What are they? They are coordinating conjunctions, right? Now let's move to clauses and then we'll discuss about types of clauses in which we will take the discussion of complex sentence into further detail. Okay. What is a clause? A clause is a group of words that forms a part of a sentence. It has a verb and it has a subject of its own. Okay. So let's write this. Clauses. It will have a verb plus a subject of its own. These are two minimum criteria for a clause. Let us look at some examples. When she wakes up. Now, why is this not a sentence? Because it does not make complete sense. We don't know, something is missing in the sentence. We have a verb, we have a subject, but it is not making complete sense when she wakes up. So when a group of words is a part of a sentence, it has a verb and a subject but does not make complete sense, we will call it a clause. In clauses there are two types of clauses. One is the independent clause. Independent clause can stand alone. Okay, for example, after he dies, he will be forgotten. Not a very positive sentence to put up. So in this case, he will be forgotten makes sense and it can stand alone without any supporting sentence. After he dies is not important in a sentence. He will be forgotten is a complete sentence. So in this case, this will be a independent clause. Why? Because it can stand alone as a statement or a sentence. Dependent clause. After he dies, he will be forgotten. So in this case, after he dies cannot stand alone. It is a supporting part. So here the keyword is supporting. So the role of a dependent clause is to support the independent clause. Okay. In clauses there are three types. Noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. A noun clause explains the verb, the noun, or the pronoun of the main, or some other clause. For example, I know that he is a good boy. I know is the independent clause. That he is a good boy is the subordinate clause. This subordinate clause is actually a noun clause. Why? Because it is talking more about a noun or a pronoun. In this case, he is a good boy, right? So I know that he is a good boy. In this case we are talking about him, so it is a pronoun, so this will be a noun clause. An adjective clause will talk more about, or give a clarification about a particular noun or a pronoun. For example, I know the man who was here yesterday. So in this case, who was here yesterday is describing the noun, is giving us more information about the noun. Remember, in the first clause we already knew who we were talking about. He is a good boy, which means the boy that we are talking about, we are just continuing the conversation about him. But when we say I know the man who was here yesterday, we are giving a reference for the man, so we're describing the man, so it will be adjective clause. Adverb clause, let's look at the example first. He left in a hurry after he got the call. So when did he leave? He left after he got the call. So the after he got the call part, that is the subordinate clause in the sentence, is talking about the person leaving. It's describing the action. So when it's describing the action, it's going to be a adverb clause. So noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. With this, we are towards the end of this marathon video. There are smaller topics like question tags. In question tags, what do? We look at the auxiliary verb in the sentence or the main verb in the sentence. If it's a positive sentence, we will make it negative. If it's a negative sentence, then we'll use a positive question tag. That's it. So I've not taken a lot of these topics in detail. Why? Because they are of less importance. Okay, so question tags, let's just look at an example. She is not working. So this is a negative statement, so the question tag has to be positive. It will use the subordinate clause, I'm saying auxiliary verb, which is, and it will be is she. So she is not working. Is she? The question tag, before the question tag we put a comma, after the question tag we put a question mark. You will do this job is a positive sentence, so we will use won't you, a negative tag, right? Again, there will be a comma between the positive statement and the negative tag, and question mark towards the end of the negative tag. So question tags, one or two questions may come. Mostly it's not a topic which is very important. You just might need this in spotting the errors, or this is a question that sometimes comes in AFCAT exams. So if you're preparing for those exams but looking at videos from CDS, NDA, then now you also know how to use question tags. So in this video, we have overall discussed the functions of the tenses. We've spoken about voice, we have spoken about modals, we have spoken about the 8 parts of speech: noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, prepositions, conjunctions, interjections. We've also spoken about types of verbs. I'm giving more stress on this because verbs, as I told you, is a fundamental basis for grammar. may it be tenses, may it be voices, may it be, you know, question tags that we are using. A lot of focus is on this verb. Why? Because without a verb a sentence cannot be complete. So understanding the verbs and types of verbs, we've also discussed gerunds, infinitives, right? So through this process we've also discussed articles, kinds of sentences and clauses. I know this is a long video, break it down into smaller parts, and I hope that's how you've watched this video and not just in one go. If you've watched it in a one go, just go through your written notes one more time so you will recall the entire video. Thank you for staying with us for the past 2.5 hours to revise your concepts for your CDS NDA Defense Service exams. I hope you've liked this video, and I hope we've been able to add some input and help you prepare for your exams. For more such videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you find this video. I wish you all the best for your exam. In case you wish to visit us, you can find the information here. Visit us at Sati Defense Academy in Pune, Maharashtra. Thank you and see you soon.